last but absolutely not least, we have our next guest here in the Silver Zone, Yolanda Simon. Am I saying that right? Yeah. Yolanda Simon. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Yolanda. Tell us a bit about who you are, you know, your various intersecting identities, relationships, roles of your greatest importance, where you live, how long you've been living with HIV, whatever you think is most important.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yolanda Simon, and I am from the lovely Twin Republic island of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. I was diagnosed with HIV way back in 1989 when we didn't have the luxury of all these wonderful cocktails and all that we see that has emerged. In those days, there were coffin and crosses, and the slogan was AIDS kill. So to get a diagnosis certainly was a death sentence back in those days. However, when I was got my diagnosis, I am very cavalier. So I was just, okay, well, if the doctor said this is it, then maybe this is the time for me to get my life together and see what I can do in the time that I had left. So it really got me very focused. I guess too, I was very fortunate because when I was diagnosed, I met in about the first couple of months, I met a clinical psychologist who now is my very dear friend and really guided me through those dark days because I had some really very dark days. But I guess what really sustained me was anger because I was engaged to be married to this lovely man. And then he died. And then 2 weeks later, I got my diagnosis of HIV. So I was angry. I was angry for a long time. I'm still angry, but I've learned to use anger to channel it into doing positive things. So rather than sit and wait to die, because in my region, there was no conversations about, there was no HIV, it was AIDS. And people were just, you would see someone today, you wouldn't see them tomorrow. You ask, where's Stephen? And they would say, he died. They wouldn't even say the word, you know. But here I am today in 2022. About 10 days ago, I celebrated my 60th birthday. So, I don't know how much more you want me to talk about. Okay.
Thank you. I can just ask you more questions and you can keep on talking. So, what has it been like for you to grow older with HIV? So, how have things kind of changed for you over time, if they have, for the better or for the worse?
Oh, definitely. I think things have changed to the better. I used to do a lot of lectures, and one of my opening lines was, I had to get HIV to have this wonderful quality of life that I have. Because if it wasn't for HIV, I would not have done half of the things that I have done. And I have done a lot of things. I have been, well, first of all, giving you a brief synopsis. I co-founded a regional network in the Caribbean Regional Network for people living with HIV and AIDS, because I felt people were dying and we needed to have our voice. So I was bold and bad. I'm still bold and bad. Yes. And that was my thing, to take it to them, because the governments were not, and they're doing a little bit more, but a lot of lip service. So I would take it to them, and from that, then I started traveling. I met this wonderful man here. We've been friends since, my friend Stefan. We've been friends since 1992. I met Dorothy. Dorothy and I are original founding members of ICW. We won ICW together. Stefan and I were board members on GNP Plus, the global network of people living with HIV and AIDS. And we traveled, and my traveling was learning to go home and replicate those programs back home. It wasn't traveling to have a good time. And some people think, when you involve in HIV, you're having a wonderful life. But all you see is the bloody hotel room and the airport. Yeah, yeah. That's all you see. You don't see, and then you are in meetings, meetings, meetings. You have to eat on the run, and then you're off again somewhere, and they think we're having the time of our lives, and we're not. We're learning, we're going home to duplicate, to replicate, to improve our collective quality of life. So, those are the things that I have been busy doing. In fact, my clinical psychologist friend in 1994, after we founded ICW, was really the catalyst for me. Tell you a short story. So we got this call. My program coordinator in Trinidad got a call from a group of women in Amsterdam wanting to have a meeting, and they wanted two women to come. So she says, "Yolanda, would you go?" I said, "Sure," without missing a beat. She said, "You're going to go?" I said, "Hey, they said I'm going to die from HIV. I may as well see some part of the world before I go." So we went and we formed ICW, and we've never looked back since. In fact, yesterday, just next door, we celebrated our 30th anniversary of being an international movement for women living with HIV and AIDS. That was just yesterday. Uh, so that is that. But for me, HIV for me has always meant not sitting and waiting on anybody or on anything, and certainly not sitting and waiting to die. So it's always been about moving. And in fact, in 1994, I was part of the delegation that went to Beijing for the World Conference on Women. And then we went to Thailand. And when I got home, I was driving, and my eyes, I couldn't see for about 10 seconds. So I went to the doctor, but I was getting ready to travel to New York. So long story short, I get to New York, I'm diagnosed with cryptococcal meningitis. I lose my sight, I lose my hearing. I was weighing about 80 pounds. Everybody thought I was going to die. So I'm at two friends' home in Manhattan. And if you know about New York, if you don't know anybody, it's a bloody lonely place. People only talk on the phone, nobody come to see you. In my country, if you come into my country, I am coming to the airport to pick you up. If you go to New York, take a taxi. You know, if nobody comes to pick you up. So I am in this apartment, and I'm chatting with a friend in Trinidad, and I'm telling her, I said, this place is so lonely, it's cold, it's carnival, I want to come home. And she said, why don't you talk to him? And I said, well, who him? She said, talk to God. I said, okay. So later on that evening, to this day, I'm 60 and I still have to sleep with a little night light in the corner. I don't like to sleep in darkness. So I put on my little night light and I'm going to sleep. So I remembered what she said. So I said, okay, Lord, Vicky said I should talk to you. I said, but I couldn't understand how I had cryptococcal meningitis and I had survived, because everybody I knew who had that had passed away. So I said, Lord, I don't want you to tell me what my future holds. I said, but I need a sign. I said, just give me a sign. And as I said that, the light bulb in the corner of the room shattered. The room went into darkness, and I pulled the covers up over me. What seemed like 5 hours was about 5 minutes. And then I threw the covers back, and I tell people I've been laughing ever since. So this is truly not my will. This journey that I have been on for the last 30 plus years, working in HIV, working on behalf of people living with HIV, has not been my will. As I tell people, I had to get HIV to do this work, and this work is really not about you. It is about who we don't see, those people who are afraid, think that they are alone, and need someone to advocate on their behalf. And some of you are too young to know the early days when there was no face, or then there was one face. There's only the face of gay men in the Caribbean. There's only gay men. And then there were two women, another woman, Catherine Williams, who passed on, and myself. And then things started changing little by little. So, you want to ask me something again?
I do. So I want to ask you, how are things changing for you on a personal level as you grow older? Are you experiencing any like additional aches and pains? Are you thinking about things differently? Are you feeling like as mobile as you ever were? Are there financial changes? What kind of things change as you're growing older with HIV?
Well, one of the things that's changing is that I am not interested in all of these demonstration and jumping up and going out in the hot sun. I tell them, go do that and come and meet me by the bar. I'll buy the wrongs, because I've been there, done that. But really, my life has been, I have challenged myself since I became HIV positive. And even though I guess I'm considered an activist par excellence in the Caribbean, but there came a time when activism alone was not enough. You can do so much more, but in my region, that little piece of paper, which all over the world take for granted, especially in the North, it had to be done. So I took myself back to school. I got a bachelor's degree in sociology, then I got a master's degree in gender development and social policy. And these days, I got a job with the government. I laugh at that because if you know governments really don't give a shit, quite frankly, about anybody. But interestingly, in my job, what got me over the threshold was the fact that I told the permanent secretary, I told about my status because I work in the HIV workplace advocacy unit in our Ministry of Labor. And I said, if you hire me, you can open the doors. I said, but I will get through the doors and I will put things right. And she was blown away. She said, I'd never met anybody who had HIVs or so bold to say that they had HIV and for so long. So every time she has a little issue, she calls me, she says, Yolanda, am I doing this? So it's working out well. And talking about financial security, I've always been in that vein. So many years ago, I had challenged myself when I was 27. I said that, and that was just a little while after I got diagnosed. I said I wanted to own my own home before I got to 40. And when I got to 38, I owned my first house. And now I own my third house. And I'm almost finished paying off the mortgage. So I have financial security, I have a home. I have been with my partner who I was just going about my business. And she said she would, what was her words? She said, you will always have my unconditional love. Well, that love has now transcended into this year, will be 26 years of unconditional love. So, I feel privileged. I know that I have walked in a space where few people have been privileged to do that. And for that, I feel it is I must give back. I cannot just say, well, my life is good and move on. I think I must give back because one of the things that I have always tried to show people is that despite your HIV status, the sky is the limit. You can do anything that you want. I remember in the early days when the US still have the policy, to a less extent now, that we couldn't get visas to go to the US. And I remember the first time we wanted to go to a conference. So my colleague who died, Catherine Williams, we're going to this conference in New York. And the form says, do you have any infectious diseases? She said, what are we going to put? I said, lie, say no. So, and we went, and I have traveled all over the world. I've been to every single continent. Where I haven't gone is where I refuse to go. So, but all of those things are blessings, which means I have to give back. It's not to say, well, I have done this and I have done that, but really it's to help people. And in fact, when Brent was talking about, and I know you're going to ask me this, so I'm jumping the gun, when he was talking about the next generation of activists, I have a slightly different take on that. And I told them that yesterday. Activism is not about Insta and Facebook and WhatsApp and social media. Activism is about heart first. And I think that is lacking. But I think, because they really don't know how to do it. I watched some people try to do a demo yesterday. I deliberately stood up and I looked at how they were organizing. And they didn't have a clue because none of us who knew how to do it was invited to help them. Because, after you pass 30 for young people, you're old, right? You're old. Yeah. So, but as Brent was saying, we have to find a way really to bridge the gap. Maybe in our days, we used to live in a language of obscene language for a long time. We used to curse each other, but that was love, I'd say, what the F wrong with you? But it was love. That's how we spoke to each other. Maybe we need to engage them in that way because this intellectual discourse is lost in them, so but I don't know. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, I there's some young people here and back home because where I am now in my life is about mentoring young people. And my thing is, I'm not going to force it down your throat. But if you want support, I'm here. But Brent is saying, flip that and go and hold them by their neck and say, come here, you need help. I don't know if that will work either, but
Well, it sounds like each of you has a strategy that's working for you. So none is the right way, I suppose. So tell me a little bit about the response to HIV and aging in Trinidad and Tobago, in the Caribbean more broadly. Are there opportunities for people who are aging with HIV to access peer support, to access integrated care for their HIV and their age-related changes?
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm going to use myself as an example. It was just into the COVID epidemic in early 2020. And I have very good adherence. I do everything. I lime, I drink, I party, and I have very good adherence. And I went to my doctor. Well, I have more than one, but I went to this one, and she said, you really have to stop coming here because you've been undetectable forever. So your thing is not about HIV anymore, but really now about aging because you're getting up there, and some days when I get up in the morning, so I get out of bed and I'm like this. Yeah. Yeah. So, but so she said, you need to get a real doctor, a real doctor. So, okay, so I went to my other doctors who I have had a real doctor along with my HIV care for years. So I told him what she said, and he laughed. He said, but I'm your real doctor because I've been doing everything. It's not about HIV alone. It's really a very holistic care. And that is available in Trinidad and Tobago and in pretty much in the Caribbean. So you find we have an aging population who's doing well, and if people are not doing well, quite frankly, it's their own damn fault because they're not doing what they're supposed to do, quite frankly. Everything is there. Everything is there. The only thing is not taking them and putting the pills down their throat, but everything is available. There is access. I remember in the days before that, when some of us who would travel, we would bring pills in our suitcases. We would take them out and put them in Ziploc bags and paste them in between magazines and put condoms in top. So when we get to the immigration and they see the condoms, they say they'll take some condoms, but the pills are below the condoms. And all of these innovative things that people take for granted now, all these drugs, all these cocktails that they can get. But I guess that was that time and now it's this time. So it's a different time, but the principles still apply. You have to, I am two things I'm a proponent of is adherence and disclosure. Somebody know you have HIV. Somebody. But who cares? So live your life as if everybody knows. Live well. And that's the other thing that I do. I decided when I got diagnosed, I want the very best. So in Trinidad, in the Caribbean, we have a rum culture because, sugarcane and slavery and the queen and all these kinds of things. And so, but I never liked rum. But when I got diagnosed, my father told me, he says, you must not ever drink rum. You must drink scotch. So now I drink 15, 20, 21, 18-year-old scotch. I don't drink rum. I don't drink this cheap wine I see traversing all over the conference. I'm not drinking those things. I want the best for me, and I think if people embrace that notion, because I feel I'm going to live forever, even though I've had cryptococcal meningitis. I have a shunt for the last 20 plus years. I have a lumbar shunt, and I'm sure I have all sorts of things, but that's part of the course. And there were some people every Monday morning, they're going to the doctor. The doctor has to say, like, aren't you coming? I said, what I need to come for? Just send me my pills. Because they know that I don't But I'd have some people every Monday morning, they by the doctor, they feel a pain here, they feel a pain there. I who have time for that? My message is live your life, embrace life. And if HIV hadn't taught us that, COVID certainly did. How many of us have lost people? Now, not even HIV positive people, healthy people who have died from COVID. So just embrace your life, enjoy your life.
So thank you. We'll wrap up by me asking you one question. What's one thing that you really are looking forward to in the future?
Ooh, what am I looking forward to? I can't say I'm looking forward to the future because my future is now. I feel absolutely contented with my life. I am happy. Don't tell anybody. But I am happy. I look around. I have had a circle of friends since my diagnosis who told me years ago. They said, "You are not allowed to die until we tell you it is time to die." And they are still with me. I have a partner who adores me. I adore her. I have all the material things you think you'd want to have, a roof over my head. I just bought a new car. I have some money in the bank. I have good friends, long term friends. This conference is about meeting up old friends. What else do I want? Some good wine would be nice in this conference, but you can't have everything. But yes, there's the future is now for me. There's no, and I tell people if I die now, I have lived. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions before we wrap up? I think that's a good way to end it. Thank you very much.